you want to learn English even while you sleep? It's possible. Scientific research shows that our brain continues to perceive information during sleep. This is the perfect time for passive learning. What you'll get with this video: audio lesson for listening while you sleep, calm voice with perfect pronunciation, slow tempo for easy perception, essential phrases and words for daily communication, method effectiveness, better memorization of new words, improved listening comprehension, getting used to correct pronunciation, reduced language barrier. How to use: 1. Play this video before sleep. 2. Set a comfortable volume. 3. Relax and let your brain work. 4. Repeat regularly for best results. Best time to listen: right before sleep, during rest and relaxation. As background while working, what's included in the audio: basic everyday phrases, useful vocabulary for traveling, business expressions for work, grammar structures in context. Enjoy watching and don't forget to subscribe. Sophia and Mark. Sophia and Mark were an ordinary couple. Their life was full of daily routine, work, a small apartment in a noisy city, and a dream that was slowly becoming brighter and brighter. They wanted to change everything. Their hearts called for adventure, for freedom from everyday life, for the chance to discover a new world. Their dream was to move to another country where they could start everything from the beginning. At first, it seemed impossible. They were ordinary people, without special savings, without professions that would immediately be in demand abroad. But their desire was so strong that they started with the most important thing: the language. English, the language that opens doors to almost every country in the world, became their first challenge. He was an engineer, she was a teacher. Their knowledge of English was quite modest, limited to the school program and random phrases from films. They started with the basics, with the alphabet, with simple words, with grammar rules. It was difficult. New words were confusing, grammar seemed complicated and illogical, and the pronunciation was hard to copy. They signed up for online courses, downloaded mobile apps for learning the language, found audiobooks, and started watching films with English subtitles. Every evening after work, they dedicated time to English. They sat at the kitchen table, filling their notebooks, saying words aloud, and sometimes laughing at their own mistakes. The first weeks were hard. They felt disappointment and doubt. Sometimes it seemed to them that they would never reach the desired level. But they didn't give up. They reminded themselves of their dream, of the new life that was waiting for them. They supported each other, encouraged each other when one of them felt unsure. Sophia was more patient and persistent. She loved to read, so she quickly started to expand her vocabulary. She found English books for beginners and read them every day, gradually moving to more difficult texts. Mark was more practical. He loved watching English language videos about engineering, trying to understand the technical terminology. He often used online dictionaries and translators to check if his words were correct. They started speaking to each other in English, first with simple phrases, and then with more and more complex ones. They laughed when they made mistakes, but it only made their determination stronger. They started to think in English, to imagine themselves in an English-speaking country, to dream about their new life. After a month, they could already understand the main idea of English videos and articles. They started to communicate with native speakers online, to practice their pronunciation, and to expand their vocabulary. They took part in conversation clubs, where they met other people who were learning English. They noticed that their efforts were starting to bring results. Their vocabulary was expanding, grammar was becoming clearer, and their pronunciation was improving. They felt more confident when they heard the English language, and after 3 months, they could already have simple conversations in English, understand most films and TV programs without subtitles, and read articles on the internet. They started to plan their move, to look for information about countries that interested them, and to study immigration requirements. Sophia and Mark felt their dream becoming more and more real. They were happy that they didn't give up, that they continued to work hard on themselves. They knew that a lot of work was still ahead, but they were ready for the challenges. And then, after 6 months of hard work, they saw the first significant results. They could communicate freely in English, understand complex texts, and write letters and essays. They found online jobs which allowed them to earn money and prepare for the move. They started to look for a home in the country of their dreams and to learn about its culture and traditions. They felt like completely different people. They became more confident, more determined, more open to new opportunities. They understood that nothing is impossible if you have desire and persistence. One evening, sitting on the balcony of their apartment, they looked at the stars. Sophia took Mark's hand and said, "We did it, my love. We are on our way to our dream." Mark nodded, his eyes shining with happiness. "Yes, we did it, and this is only the beginning." They knew that many difficulties and challenges were waiting for them ahead, but they were ready for everything. They were together, they had a dream, and they were full of determination to make it come true. Their new life, full of adventures and opportunities, was waiting for them. And it all started with one small but very important thing: the English language. It opened the doors to a new world for them, a world where their dreams could become reality. And they were ready to walk through those doors, holding hands, full of hope and faith in themselves. The stars twinkled in the night sky, their light shining on Sophia and Mark's faces as they shared their dreams for the future. They were no longer just learning a language. They were preparing the ground for a new life. Conversations about moving became part of their daily routine, and their plans became more specific. They decided on a country, Canada, a land of opportunities, where a culture of tolerance mixed with amazing landscapes. They started actively looking for jobs. Mark, using his technical knowledge, found online courses to get certificates. These certificates confirmed his qualifications and made him more attractive to Canadian employers. Sophia, with her teaching experience, focused on learning about the Canadian education system and searching for teacher vacancies. They created resumes and cover letters in English, carefully correcting every mistake. They practiced for job interviews, using online resources to prepare for possible questions. They even started saving money, putting aside a part of their income for the move and their first months in Canada. But life wasn't always easy. Sometimes, when they faced difficulties, doubts entered their hearts. They remembered how hard it was to learn the language, their financial limits, and the fear of the unknown.
In such moments, they supported each other, reminding themselves of their dream and how far they had already come.
One day, when they were almost losing hope, Mark received an email from a Canadian company. They offered him a job as an engineer. It was incredible luck. They jumped with joy, hugged each other, and cried from happiness. It was the first big step towards their dream. Sophia continued to work hard on her job search. She applied for many vacancies and had several interviews. Finally, she also received an offer, a job as a teacher in an elementary school. Her heart was full of joy. From that moment, everything started to move much faster. They got their visas, packed their things, sold their apartment, and said goodbye to their old life. Their hearts were full of excitement and hope. The move was difficult. They found themselves in an unfamiliar country with new traditions, new rules, and new challenges. At first, it was hard to get used to the climate, the new culture, and the absence of friends and family. They felt lonely and missed their old life. But they didn't give up. They knew these were only temporary difficulties, that they had to go through this to achieve their dream. They started to meet new people, visit cultural events, and explore the city and the country. They found new hobbies and discovered new opportunities. Mark quickly found a common language with his colleagues and started working on interesting projects. Sophia happily began her work at the school, where she was met with warmth and support. They were both happy to have found jobs they liked and to be able to use their potential. A year after the move, they already felt at home. They had new friends, their own apartment, stable jobs, and plans for the future. They explored the surrounding areas, enjoyed the beauty of nature, went hiking, and traveled. They remembered their journey, all the difficulties they had overcome, their persistence, and their belief in themselves. They knew their journey was only beginning, and many more adventures and discoveries were waiting for them. One evening, sitting by the fireplace in their cozy apartment, they looked at each other with love and gratitude. Sophia took Mark's hand and said, "We created our new life, my love. We succeeded." Mark smiled and nodded. "Yes, we did it, and this is only the beginning." They knew their dream had come true, but they didn't stop there. They continued to learn, to grow, and to set new goals for themselves. They were together, they were happy, and they were ready for everything the future held for them. Their new life, which started with the desire to change everything, had become a reality, full of love, happiness, and endless possibilities. And all of this, thanks to their shared dream and hard work, which began with learning the English language. Winter in Canada covered their new home with a soft white blanket. Snow fell in large flakes, covering the streets and turning the world around them into a fairy tale land. Sophia and Mark, wrapped in warm sweaters and jackets, happily welcomed every snowfall. They learned to love the winter, even though at first it seemed strange and harsh to them. They had started a new life, and with it came new challenges and opportunities. Mark, besides his job, started to learn programming, dreaming of creating his own startup. Sophia, inspired by the Canadian education system, decided to get an additional qualification to expand her opportunities. They signed up for courses, met new people, and expanded their circle of friends. They started to take part in community events, learning about the local culture and traditions. They learned to cook Canadian food, went to hockey games, and celebrated Christmas with their new friends. Their relationship became even stronger. They supported each other in all their endeavors, shared their dreams and plans for the future. They learned to trust each other and to appreciate every moment spent together. One day, during a walk in a snowy park, Sophia told Mark some unexpected news. "Mark, I'm pregnant," she said with a smile. Mark was stunned, but his eyes shone with happiness. He hugged Sophia, kissed her, and whispered words of love. They were overjoyed by this news, understanding that their life was becoming even more complete. They began to prepare for the baby's arrival. They set up a nursery, bought clothes and toys, and read books about baby care. They looked forward to meeting their little one. The birth of the child became the happiest event in their lives. They named their daughter Emily. Sophia and Mark became parents, and their lives changed forever. They learned to be responsible, caring, and patient. They enjoyed every moment spent with Emily, watching her grow and develop. With the arrival of the child, their life became even more full and interesting. They walked with Emily in the park, read her stories, and sang lullabies. They celebrated birthdays, Christmas, and other holidays together. They became a real family. Over time, Emily went to kindergarten and then to school. Sophia continued to work as a teacher, and Mark developed his startup. They were both happy that they could do what they loved and that they had a wonderful family. The years passed. Emily grew up, becoming a smart and talented girl. Sophia and Mark watched her grow and develop, proud of her achievements. They traveled the world, visited different countries, and learned about new cultures. They spent time together, enjoying every moment of their lives. One day, sitting by the ocean, they watched the sunset. Sophia took Mark's hand and said, "We went through many difficulties, but we were always together. We created a wonderful life." Mark nodded, his eyes shining with happiness. "Yes, we did it, and we will continue to live happily." They knew their life wasn't perfect, and that many challenges still awaited them, but they were ready for anything. They were together, they loved each other, and they had the most precious thing, their family. Their new life, which started with a dream of moving to another country, had become a reality, full of love, happiness, adventure, and endless possibilities. And all of this, thanks to their shared dream, hard work, and belief in themselves. They were grateful for every day, for every meeting, for every moment spent together. They knew that their story was a story of love, perseverance, and making a dream come true. And they were happy that they were able to write it together page by page, day by day. That's all for today, and don't forget to subscribe our channel. Bye for now.